Prologue. 1986, Washington State. Ancient redwoods loomed over the narrow mountain road like silent sentinels, their massive trunks disappearing into the darkness above. Moonlight filtered through the dense canopy in silver shafts, creating an otherworldly dance of light and shadow across Kara's windshield. She inhaled deeply through her cracked windows, savoring the crisp mountain air that carried hints of pine and moss. The doctor's warning about her medication echoed in her mind. Don't drive for at least 6 hours. These pills will affect your coordination, your reaction time. She smiled, running her hand over her swollen belly. Shows what they know, she whispered to her unborn daughter. The baby kicked in response, making Kara laugh. She began singing softly, an old lullaby her mother used to sing. The harsh electronic chirp of her pager shattered the moment. Kara jumped, her heart racing as she reached across to her purse on the passenger seat. Bernie, checking in again. Always the worried husband, especially since she'd started taking this shortcut through the mountains. No phones up here, but she'd be home in minutes anyway. As she dropped the pager back into her purse, movement caught her eye. She looked up to find a massive buck standing in her headlights, its antlers casting spiderweb shadows across the dirt road. Time seemed to slow. Kara's hands clenched the wheel as she stomped the brake pedal, trying to swerve. The tires locked, throwing the car into a wild spin. The world became a blur of shadows and moonlight. Tree trunks whipped past as her Honda careened off the road, plunging into the darkness between the ancient redwoods. The last thing Kara saw was a massive trunk rushing toward her, filling her vision before everything went black. The impact was devastating. Metal screamed as the car's front end accordioned around the tree. The airbag deployed, but it wasn't designed for pregnant women. Kara lay unconscious, pinned between seat and steering wheel, while inside her womb, a tiny heart began to falter. Then the dream began, if it was a dream. Brilliant white light enveloped her. Kara felt weightless, drifting in a sterile space that seemed both vast and confining. Strange figures moved around her, their forms blurred and elongated, speaking in whispers that seemed to bypass her ears and materialize directly in her mind.
Please,
she begged, her voice echoing strangely.
Save my baby.
The figures conferred in their otherworldly whispers before one stepped forward, its voice crystal clear.
A soul for a soul. What is lost can be replaced, but the exchange must be willing. The choice is yours.
Confusion swirled through Kara's mind. Replace a soul? It was impossible against nature itself. But as she felt the last flutter of life within her womb, desperation overcame reason.
Yes,
she cried out.
Anything. Just save her.
Something cold pressed against her belly, spreading an electric sensation through her body. It built like a wave, starting in her womb and radiating outward until every nerve ending sang with an otherworldly energy. Her back arched as the sensation peaked, and then darkness claimed her once again. Hours later, a highway patrolman found Kara lying unconscious beside her mangled car. The driver's door was still firmly crushed shut, the windshield intact. No one could explain how she'd gotten out. 2 weeks later, Kara awakened to find Bernie holding her hand, his face lined with worry and relief.
Welcome back, Sleeping Beauty.
The baby.
Kara's hands flew to her stomach, still swollen but different somehow.
She's fine. Tough as nails, the doctors say.
Bernie stroked her cheek.
You're the one we were worried about. If you hadn't somehow gotten clear of the car...
His voice trailed off. Kara's mind raced. The dream of strange doctors and replaced souls lingered like smoke. She looked down at her belly, wondering if the child she carried was still truly hers. But as exhaustion pulled her back toward sleep, she convinced herself it had just been a dream. The years that followed seemed to confirm this. Brittany was born healthy and strong, though she bore little resemblance to either parent. She grew into a force of nature, brilliant, fearless, and drawn to danger like a moth to flame. No amount of moving or therapy could tame her wild spirit. The nightmares started when she turned 10. She'd wake screaming, describing impossible things. Strange lights, metal tables, beings that weren't quite human. Kara recognized elements from her own dream that night on the mountain, but she buried the connection deep in her mind. By 11, the nightmares stopped as suddenly as they'd begun. Brittany blazed through school, graduating 2 years early. Her intelligence was matched only by her beauty, a combination that proved lethal when she became a detective. She could slip into any undercover role, using her charm and looks to infiltrate criminal organizations with ease. The more dangerous the assignment, the more she craved it. Standing just over 5 feet tall, Brittany commanded attention through sheer force of personality. Her beauty drew men like moths to a flame, but it was her fearlessness that kept them orbiting. She moved through life like someone who knew she was different, special, though she couldn't have explained why. When a series of violent armed robberies hit the city's check-cashing businesses, Brittany volunteered immediately for the undercover operation. Lieutenant Ashley Collins, who'd never liked the young detective's effect on her male officers, was all too happy to place her in harm's way. Brittany threw herself into the role, working the counter at a check-cashing store in the city's roughest neighborhood. The suspect's description was vague. 2 black males, one 5'8", the other 6'4", but Brittany's instincts told her she'd know them when she saw them. She lived for moments like these, the dance with danger that made her feel most alive. Her upcoming marriage was meant to ground her, to provide some normalcy. But as she scanned the faces of customers for her targets, Brittany knew normal would never be enough. Something inside her, something perhaps not entirely human, craved more. She never suspected that this craving would lead her straight into the arms of destiny and danger beyond anything she'd imagined.